In the lap of the Himalayas, on the highest land on earth, lies a mysterious civilization. Where even clouds cannot easily reach, where the air is so thin that it is difficult to breathe, Tibet has survived for thousands of years. This land is called the roof of the world, because the soil here is an average of 5,000 meters above sea level. At this altitude, where no other civilization has been able to develop, the Tibetans have not only survived, they have developed a complete civilization, a complete faith, a complete philosophy of life. Surrounded by mountains on all sides, this land seems to have been created by nature itself to be separated from the rest of the world. The Kunlun Mountains in the north, the Himalayas in the south, the Karakoram in the west, and Yunnan in the east. It has never been an easy task to break through these mountain walls and reach Tibet. That is why for centuries Tibet was an unknown mystery to the world. To outsiders, it was a forbidden city, an unknown world. This Himalayan mountain range is not only the border of Tibet, it is also the source of water for Asia. The Brahmaputra, Irrawaddy, Salween, Mekong, the life-giving rivers of billions of people in Asia, originate from these mountains. When the ice in Tibet melts, that water flows down to Bangladesh, India, Myanmar, China, and Vietnam. Tibet is therefore not just a geographical region, it is the source of life for the whole of Asia. Mount Everest stands in the lap of Tibet. The highest mountain peak in the world, 8,885 meters high. Tibetans call it Komolungma, the goddess mother of the universe. This mountain is not just a mountain for them, it is a sacred entity. For centuries, Tibetans have prayed at the foot of Everest, because they believe that a great power lives in this mountain. Looking from the Tibetan plateau, it seems as if the world ends here. Wide plains, dry air, rocky soil and horizon. In this plateau, a carpet of green grass spreads in summer, and in winter the entire land is covered with a blanket of snow. It is in this harsh environment that Tibetans have built their lives. Nomadic families change their routes with the seasons, pitch tents in new fields, and move with their herds of yaks all year round. Yak, this animal is a symbol of Tibet. Huge horns, thick black fur, strong body. Yak survive even at -20 degrees Celsius. Tibetans drink yak milk, eat yak meat, weave clothes from yak fur, and carry goods with the help of yaks. If Tibetan life had to be summed up in one word, it would be yak. Tibetan civilization cannot be imagined without this animal. The air of Tibet speaks. The wind that blows through the mountains is mixed with the melody of prayer flags. These 5-colored flags, blue, white, red, green, yellow, symbolize the sky, air, fire, water, and earth. Each flag has a mantra written on it. When the wind blows the flag, Tibetans believe that the mantra spreads throughout the universe. This is not just a religious ritual, it is the language of faith of the Tibetan people. The capital, Lhasa. It is not just the name of a city, it is a feeling. Those who have been to Lhasa once say that this city is unforgettable. The air of Lhasa smells of incense, the sound of prayers, the shadow of 1,000 years of history. This city is 3,650 meters above sea level. Many tourists spend their first day feeling dizzy and short of breath. But once they get used to it, the beauty of Lhasa makes them forget all their troubles. In the center of Lhasa stands the Potala Palace. Built on the Marpo-Ri mountain, this palace is hard to believe that it was made by human hands. A huge building in white and red, 13 stories, more than 1,000 rooms. In the 7th century, King Songtsen Gampo first began building a palace here. Later, the 5th Dalai Lama gave it its current form. For centuries, the Potala was the center of religious and political power in Tibet. Today, it is part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site, one of the most precious treasures of mankind. Entering the Potala, time seems to stop. Narrow corridors, the light of butter lamps, gold-plated Buddha statues, Thangka paintings painted on the walls. Each room of this palace hides a story. The Dalai Lamas have rested here, the fate of Tibet has been decided here, thousands of years of manuscripts and scriptures are kept here. Crowds of people flock to the foot of the Potala every day from morning to night. Pilgrims come from far and wide, some on foot, some lying prostrate for months. Prostration is one of the most difficult and sacred rituals of Tibetan Buddhism. Standing with one's hands raised above the head, then lying down with the whole body on the ground, getting up and moving forward again. Some people travel thousands of kilometers in this way, just to reach Lhasa, to bow down on the steps of the Potala. Science cannot measure the depth of this faith. Another sacred place in the heart of Lhasa is the Jokhang Temple. Built in the 7th century, this temple is the most sacred place in Tibetan Buddhism. It houses the Jo Rinpoche, a famous statue of Buddha, which is said to have been made during the lifetime of the Buddha himself. The path around the Jokhang is the Barker, the oldest market and pilgrimage route in Lhasa. Walking around this path is a very virtuous act for Tibetan Buddhists. From morning to night, streams of people flow along this path, prayer beads in hand, mantras in mouth. The shops in Barker are lined with beautiful works of Tibetan art. Thanka, a silk cloth painted with images of Buddhist deities. A skilled artist takes months to years to create a thanka. Every color, every line has to be drawn according to specific rules. Silver jewelry, copper prayer wheels, sacred stones. There is a story, a belief behind each thing. Tibet cannot be understood without talking about Tibetan Buddhism. This religion is not just a system of worship, it is the entire structure of Tibetan life. Buddhism entered Tibet in the 7th century during the reign of King Songtsen Gampo. His 2 wives, one Nepalese, one Chinese, were both Buddhists. Under their influence, the king converted to Buddhism and began to transform Tibet into a Buddhist state. Tibetan Buddhism has its own unique form. This unique religious tradition is a mixture of Vajrayana Buddhism from India and the local Ban religion of Tibet. Galug, Kagyu, Nyingma, Sakya, different schools of Tibetan Buddhism. Each school has its own monastery, its own rituals, its own teaching methods. Tibetan monasteries are not just religious places, they are centers of knowledge and education. Drepung Monastery near Lhasa once housed more than 10,000 monks. It was practically like a city. Its own classrooms, library, kitchen, hospital. Sera Gonden. These huge monasteries were the universities of Tibet. Students from different parts of Asia came here to study philosophy, medicine, astrology, and theology. A unique teaching method of Tibetan monasteries is religious debate. Monks sit in pairs facing each other. One asks a question and the other answers. When asking a question, hands are clapped in a special manner. This debate involves the deepest questions of philosophy. What is consciousness? What is time? What is the nature of emptiness? Tibetan Buddhist philosophy has developed in this way for hundreds of years. The most well-known mantra of Tibetan Buddhism is, Om Mani Padme Hum. The essence of Buddhist philosophy is hidden in these 6 words. This mantra is engraved on Tibetan stones, flags, and prayer wheels. Tibetans chant this mantra all day long, during work, while walking, and before going to sleep. It is believed that the words of this mantra have a miraculous power, which purifies the mind and liberates the soul. Now let's talk about the most mysterious and most important institution in Tibet, the position of the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama is not just a religious leader. To the Tibetan people, he is the reincarnation of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion. That is, Tibetans believe that the Dalai Lama is reborn as a new child after death. This cycle of rebirth is never interrupted. How is the new Dalai Lama found? The process itself is a miraculous journey. After the death of the previous Dalai Lama, the senior lamas meditate. They begin their search through dreams, visions, and divine signals. It is believed that the reflection of the water in the sacred lake indicates the birthplace of the future Dalai Lama. Then, children are tested in that area. If the correct item is identified from the personal belongings of the previous Dalai Lama, the child is recognized as the Dalai Lama. This incredible process has been going on for 14 generations. The current 14th Dalai Lama is Tenzin Gyatso. Born in a small village in Tibet in 1935. At the age of just 2, he was recognized as the reincarnation of the 13th Dalai Lama. At the age of 5, he officially ascended the throne of the Dalai Lama. The burden of all Tibet rested on the shoulders of a small child. The most difficult chapter in the history of Tibet began in the 20th century. The ancient Tibetan Empire was once one of the most powerful states in Central Asia. In the 7th and 8th centuries, Tibetan troops occupied the Chinese capital. Then their power gradually declined, and contact with the outside world decreased. At the beginning of the 20th century, Tibet was practically an independent state, with its own government and currency. Everything changed in 1950. Chinese troops entered Tibet. No country in the world stands by Tibet. The Tibetan army is insufficient in strength. In just a few weeks, Tibet fell under Chinese control. The 16-year-old Dalai Lama faced the most difficult situation in history. How can the Tibetan people and Tibetan culture be protected? In 1959, Tibetans staged a mass uprising. Millions of people took to the streets to protect the Dalai Lama. But even that did not change the situation. The Dalai Lama then had to make an impossible decision: to leave his country or to stay. He crossed the Himalayas in the dark of night and came to India. This journey was on foot, hiding in the crevices of the mountains, in a snowstorm. After traveling a long way, he reached India. The Indian government gave him shelter. Dharamsala in Himachal Pradesh became the center of the Tibetan government in exile. Many call this small town a little Lhasa. Thousands of Tibetan refugees live here. Here are the centers of Tibetan art, Tibetan medicine, and Tibetan education. Even in exile, the Tibetans have preserved their culture through tireless work. The Dalai Lama did not stop even after going into exile. He traveled to various countries of the world, taking the message of Buddhist philosophy and peace. In 1989, he received the Nobel Peace Prize. The number of his followers around the world is over 1 million. He has proven that without weapons, one can fight, with knowledge, with compassion, with peace. The diversity of Tibetan culture is extraordinary. Tibetan music, the long melody of the Dunchen, the sharp sound of the Rolmo cymbals, the deep voices of the monks, this music takes the mind to the depths of meditation. Tibetan dance, especially the Cham dance, where monks wear terrifying masks and dance to ward off evil spirits. Tibetan food, sampa barley flour, butter tea that keeps the body warm from the cold, yak meat jerky. Butter tea is a special thing. The first thing to do in every Tibetan house in the morning is to make butter tea. This drink, made from a mixture of yak butter, tea leaves and salt, may seem strange to outsiders, but to Tibetans, it is a part of life. This hot tea warms the body in the bitter cold, and provides strength at high altitudes. This butter tea is a symbol of Tibetan hospitality. Tibetan medicine is 5,000 years old. This medical system, a blend of Buddhist philosophy and Ayurveda, aims to keep the body, mind, and spirit healthy together. Tibetan doctors diagnose diseases by looking at the pulse and prepare medicines using rare herbs from the high Himalayas. Modern science has found a scientific basis in many aspects of this medical system. Tibet's nature is rich in diversity. The snow leopard lives here, one of the rarest and most mysterious animals in the world. This cat, covered in gray-white fur, blends into the rocks in such a way that it is almost invisible. The golden eagle reigns in the skies of Tibet. The Tibetan gazelle deer runs across the plateau at incredible speed. And in the night sky, the Milky Way is visible to the naked eye, because there is no light pollution here. One of the holiest places in Tibet is Mount Kailash. This mountain is equally sacred to Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, and Bantu religions. For Hindus, it is the abode of Shiva. For Buddhists, it is the center of the Mahasukha chakra. Every year, thousands of pilgrims circumambulate Kailash. This 55-kilometer circumambulation has to be done on a high mountain path, and it takes 3 to 5 days. Many believe that completing this circumambulation will wash away all the sins of life. In the modern era, the world's connection with Tibet has increased through an extraordinary engineering feat, the Qinghai-Tibet Railway. This railway line, which was opened in 2006, is the highest railway line in the world. The train runs at an altitude of more than 5,000 meters. There is a special oxygen system for passengers on the train. In the construction of this railway line, frozen soil, high-altitude air pressure, and huge mountain ranges had to be overcome. This is an extraordinary example of human engineering skills. The Tibetan language is another valuable pillar of culture. The Tibetan script was created in the 7th century, inspired by Sanskrit. Thousands of religious scriptures, philosophical books, poems, and history have been written in this script. Preserving the Tibetan language means preserving an entire body of knowledge. Today, work is underway to preserve the Tibetan language and literature with the help of digital technology. When you look at the faces of Tibetan people, you can see a strange peace. Despite their difficult lives, political deprivation, exile, there is a light in their eyes. This light comes from their faith. Tibetan Buddhist philosophy says that suffering is part of life, but freedom from suffering is also possible. This belief has sustained Tibetans for generations. Many scientists and philosophers around the world are paying attention to Tibetan Buddhism today, because scientific research has proven that the meditation method of this religion brings positive changes to the human brain. Mindfulness, which is so popular in the Western world today, has its roots in Tibetan meditation. The Dalai Lama himself has worked with neuroscientists to explore the scientific basis of meditation. What is the future of Tibet? The answer to this question is complex. But one thing is certain: Tibetan culture will not die. As long as a Tibetan makes butter tea, as long as a monk chants mantras, as long as a child sings in Tibetan, Tibet will live. Tibetans in exile are spread across India, Nepal, America, and Europe. They are teaching their children the Tibetan language and culture. Maybe they will be able to return to Tibet someday, maybe they won't. But Tibet lives on in them. One day, the sun will rise anew from the peaks of the Himalayas. The footsteps of free Tibetans will be heard again on the streets of Lhasa. The bells of the Potala will ring in the joy of freedom. Maybe that day will come, maybe it won't. But the Tibetans have not given up hope. Because their religion says, as long as there is hope, there is a way. Standing on the roof of the world, a nation is fighting for its existence. Their weapon is faith, their shield is culture, their strength is unity. Tibet reminds us, a nation cannot be erased if the light of identity burns in the hearts of every person of that nation. Tibet, a name, a struggle, an eternal truth. This light burning on the roof of the world will never be extinguished.